Whether good or bad, we all have habits. Usually they are to do with our self-care, things like going to the gym, journaling, or doing your skincare. But habits can apply elsewhere in your life too, including in your brand. So just like getting in the habit of moving your body will help you in so many ways, getting in the habit of working on your brand will help your business in so many ways too. So today I'm going to talk to you all about the useful things that creatives can get in the habit of doing that will help them to build and grow your brand. Hello and welcome to Brand Your Passion, the show that helps you turn the thing you love the most into something that people know and love you for. I'm your host, Holly Arnett, the brand coach for creatives, and I'm on a mission to make the world a more creative place, one brand at a time. If you're ready to get more eyes on your work, more dollars in your pocket, and more creativity in your life, you're in the right place. Welcome. Let's brand your passion. I've broken this down into 3 different categories. So the first category is habits you can build around your brand strategy that will help you with your business. Then we'll talk about habits around your brand identity, and then habits around growing your brand or marketing your brand that you can work on too. Altogether, there are 15 habits that you could work on that will help you in terms of building your business and building and growing your brand. So let's start with brand strategy. So first things first, the habit that is really, really useful when it comes to helping you build and grow your brand is getting into the habit of referencing your brand strategy for everything. Once you have done work on your brand strategy, whether you have written your mission and your vision and your values, or you've done some work on who your audience are, or you have figured out a strategy for your visibility and how you're going to get in front of more people, when you have all of that information all together, you want to be referencing that as much as possible when you are making decisions or when you're putting content together or when you're working with somebody like a social media manager or somebody to help you with your paid ads or a copywriter or whoever. You want to be referencing that document all the time. You want to get in the habit of doing that as much as possible. So that means maybe having it somewhere super accessible or having reminders or linking it in all the places that you use to do all those other things. So maybe wherever you plan your content, you have your brand strategy linked, or wherever you communicate with other people, you have your strategy linked, or wherever you're doing all those other things, you have your brand strategy really obviously available so that it reminds you like, okay, when I am putting my content calendar together, let me have a look back at my strategy to make sure that I'm creating content that is talking to my audience and appealing to the right people and hitting all my content pillars that I want to be talking about. So make sure that you are referencing your strategy for everything, and getting in the habit of doing that is a really, really, really great thing to do. Habit number 2 is always coming back to your vision. So this is obviously tied in to referencing your strategy for everything, but coming back to your vision is really, really important and really helpful for you in so many ways. This is really helpful for me, like on the days where I am struggling, where I'm having a hard day, or I'm like, why am I doing this? Or this is really difficult, or I am trying to figure something out, or I don't know how to make a decision, or anything like that. Coming back to my vision reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. It helps me get clarity. It helps me to have that North Star to work towards and to refocus and to recenter myself and kind of remind myself, okay, yeah, this is why I'm doing this. This puts everything into perspective. This is the big picture. This is why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. So getting in the habit of every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, really reminding yourself, this is my vision. This is the big picture. This is the ultimate goal. That is a really great habit to start doing. So again, this is a similar practice to what you can do with your strategy, but put that vision somewhere that you can see it often. I have this on my Notion dashboard. I have my vision and my mission and my values. It can be a useful thing to put on like your phone background, or if you have like a monthly check-in or a monthly meeting with yourself or with a friend, or if you're in a team, it can be a really great time to revisit your mission. Then if you do any like monthly planning or quarterly planning, revisit your mission and your vision then, and just like check in and be like, am I still happy with this vision? Does it still make sense? And does it still feel aligned with where I'm at and what I want to do? But also, let me just recenter and refocus myself on that vision and remind myself what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, so that everything else can flow from there. So getting back into the habit of coming back to your vision regularly and refocusing everything you do from that main goal, that overarching big picture vision, is really powerful. Habit number 3, when it comes to your brand strategy, is defaulting to your values. It can be really easy to make decisions or to do things just based on like instinct or impulse, or because that's what other people are doing or what you should be doing in quotation marks, or what is kind of expected of you, or, you know, all these kind of societal things or kind of pressure that gets put on you. But the power of your brand values is that they're really rooted in what's important to you and what you want to put out into the world, and how you want to run your business and how you want to come across and what you want to express. And it's important that you actually do that. There's no point in having values if you don't actually outwork them and actually use them and do what you say you're going to do. Obviously, actions speak louder than words, right? And having values is really helpful because it takes the decision fatigue away, kind of, because it makes the decision making a lot easier. So when you are faced with a decision, or you are looking into starting a project or doing a collaboration or something new in your business or taking an opportunity or whatever it is, make it a habit to check in with your values, to default to your values in everything that you do. So if somebody approaches you and says, hey, do you want to do this thing? I have this opportunity. Do you want to give it a go? Do you want to collab with me on this thing? Or what do you think about this? Make it a habit to check in with your values, because when you've put in the work to figure out what those values are and like really explain what they mean and how you are going to outwork those values, it's then really easy for you to go like, okay, let me use these values as like a decision-making matrix to take the pressure and the difficulty out of making that decision, because I know that I can use these values as like a test, right? So if someone comes to you and says like, yeah, hey, do you want to do this thing? You can go, okay, how does this measure up against these values? Does it make sense with this value? Yes or no? Does it make sense with this value? Yes or no? Does it make sense with this value? Yes or no? And that makes it a lot easier. So the habit that I would recommend is to default to your values as much as you can and get into the habit of doing that. And again, as with your strategy and your vision, keep your values top of mind, put them somewhere that you'll remember them all the time and that you will keep looking at them, keep them in front of you, make sure that you see them as much as possible and remember them and come to use them as much as possible, because they're there to be used. They're there to be actionable. They're there to be a tool in your strategy. They're there to be a strategic thing for you. They're on your side. They are your values. Use them as your values, as your decision-making tools. Default to your values as much as possible. Habit number 4 is to think about your audience and get into the habit of considering your audience as much as possible too. So I mentioned this in referencing your strategy for everything, but if you have done the work of pinpointing your people, so you have uncovered and understood and learned to engage with your audience in a way that makes sense for you and who you want to have in your ideal audience, then make sure you do something with that information, right? You've spent the time, you've really figured out who you want to have as customers or clients. You have like uncovered who they are and what's important to them and what they want to know and what they love and where you can reach them and where you can find them and how you can get in front of them and what they want to engage with and all of that stuff. It's important that you make the most of that and you make use of that. So make sure that you think about your audience and get in the habit of thinking about them. I shared an episode recently about creating content that speaks directly to your ideal audience. So that's one example of how you can do that. So use the information you have about your audience to create content, talk to your audience all the time, gather snippets of conversations that you have with them that you can use to create content, use the information that you have in your strategy to inform your sales pages, your products that you make, the markets that you go to, the events that you attend, the marketing that you do, like all of that stuff. You need to consider your audience and where they're at and what things they attend and what they're interested in and where you want to meet them and where you want to get in front of them, and what's going to work. So make sure that you are considering your audience and thinking about them and getting into the habit of that all the time. It's really easy as artists and creatives and independent business owners to obviously think about ourselves and what we're passionate about and what we want to do, and that's important. Obviously it's your business and you're a creative and you want to do things that you want to do, but we also want to make sure that it's going to work, right? And that you're putting all that energy and that passion and that creativity and that love into places and situations and people that is gonna be worthwhile and is going to make the most of all of your energy and expertise and creativity and passion. So I want to make sure that you are getting the most bang for your buck and that you are reaching the people who are going to love your work. So make sure that you are thinking about your audience and getting in the habit of referencing all the information that you have about them and staying in touch with them and thinking about them all the time. The fifth habit that you can get into is setting and tracking goals. It is, again, super easy to just keep going in your business and day by day just carry on doing the day-to-day things in your business and just keep trucking along doing the things you have to do. But it's really important that you take a day or half a day or even just an hour every so often. You could do this every week, every month, every quarter, whatever works for you, and take some time to set and track some goals. However you want to do that is up to you. There are lots of different ways that you can set goals, and I have an episode coming up all about that. So hold your horses and keep a lookout for that episode. But set some goals in a way that works for you so that you can see where you want to go and have a focus, and you can see some progress and make some progress towards your overall vision and your overall goal. Because otherwise it's hard to actually make that progress. And before you know it, you kind of look up from all of the stuff you've been doing with your head down and realize that you might not have actually made any progress, or you might have gone in the wrong direction that you didn't really want to go, or it's kind of in the direction away from where you wanted to be. And you didn't really realize that because you were so head down in the work that you were doing that you didn't realize that you weren't really dictating where you wanted to go, and you weren't setting a clear direction for where you were wanting to go. So make sure that you come up for air every so often, have a breather, take a step back every now and then, and look at the big picture and go, okay, where do I want to go? How can I get there? What steps do I want to take? And how can I do that? And do I need to set some deadlines or get some help? Or how can I achieve those goals? So get in the habit of setting and tracking goals, and you can do this on your own. You can do this in a group, maybe get a friend to keep each other accountable. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that you are taking the time and setting and tracking some goals. Now, speaking of brand strategy, I want to know if you have one for your creative business, because if you don't, you need to check out the Brand Strategy Kit for Creators. It is an easy to use plug and play brand strategy template designed just for creatives, and it is the perfect place to start when it comes to creating your brand strategy. Imagine being clear and confident in what you do, why it's so amazing, and how to share it with the world. Knowing exactly what decisions to make and steps to take to achieve your wildest creative dreams, and having it all in a go-to guide that you can easily access anywhere, anytime. That is where the Brand Strategy Kit for Creatives comes in. It's a brand strategy template designed for creators to store their biggest dreams, greatest differentiators, and best strategies, plus so much more. You'll get a 50+ page Canva template, example brand strategy, a Canva tutorial to help you get it started, and a bonus one strategy so that you can clarify your brand, craft a plan, and kick some ass. So if that sounds good and you're ready to craft a brand strategy for your creative business with this customizable, cross-platform, collaborative template, then head to the link in the show notes to get yours today. Now let's get back to the episode. Now let's talk about some habits that you can set up for your brand identity. So there are just a few things that I was thinking about here. So number one is to get into the habit of checking in on your brand identity regularly. This doesn't have to be all the time. Obviously, you don't want to necessarily be changing your brand identity all the time. It's good to keep things consistent where you can, but check in, I would say, every 6 months or every year, and just make sure you're thinking about how it feels, how people are responding to it, whether you feel good about it. Does it need any changes? Are you missing anything? Could you set up any templates to make things easier? Are you missing any patterns that could expand your brand a little? Or does it maybe need a full rebrand? Are you feeling like you need a whole refresh? Just check in every 6 months or a year and make sure that it's still working, or if it's not working anymore, maybe you need to make a plan for how you could refresh or fully rebrand your brand identity. So that's number one. Make sure you check in on your brand identity. Habit number 2 is to get into the habit of consistently using your brand colors on socials. So there's a bunch of ways you can do this. So when you are making graphics for social media, obviously you can get into the habit of using your colors for that. That means setting up your colors in whatever design program you are using. Whether that's Canva, you can set up your brand system in there, or if it's Photoshop or any Adobe products, you can set up a library in there as well. Procreate, you can set up a palette in there. Any design tool that you're using, you'll be able to set up your palette in there too. But on social media, you can do the same as well. So on Instagram stories, for example, a really easy way to make sure that you are keeping your brand colors consistent and using your colors on socials and getting in the habit of doing that is to just create a graphic in any way that works for you in your design tool, in Canva, whatever, that just has your colors laid out in any way, and save that as a graphic on your phone. Then what you do is when you're creating an Instagram story or even an Instagram reel or a TikTok, you can just add that image to your story or your reel or your TikTok and use the color dropper to pick the color on that picture and select it. So now you can use that color on your text as you're adding that onto your story and stuff. Then you can just delete the picture of your color palette, but you now have that color added to your text. So now it's all on brand. You can do it to, if you're drawing on your image, or if you want to make the background the color of your brand colors, you can do that too. So that's a really easy way to make sure that you are using your brand colors on Instagram or on any other social media platform, and getting into the habit of doing that. And it's really easy because all you need is to make one graphic that has all your colors on it and add it to your phone photo album library. And it's super easy, and it means you can get into the habit of adding your colors to your social media graphics. The third habit for your brand identity is to get into the habit of taking new brand photos. So this means taking photos regularly of you and of your products and or services. So if you have products, if you're selling prints or t-shirts or whatever you are selling, keychains, bookmarks, whatever, it would be great to get regular photos of these whenever you're obviously releasing them, or as often as you can. It's great to get photos of these. You can do this yourself, or you can hire someone to help you do that. Get those as often as you can. And then if you're doing services or you want photos of yourself, then you don't have to do as often, but it can be good to get these done every year or so. I would recommend, every year or so to keep up with what your brand looks like, make sure it's still in line with your brand, make sure it's up to date with how you look and how you feel and how you like to present yourself and how you like to show up on camera and all of that stuff. So it's good to get in the habit of setting up a photo shoot and booking in a photographer or taking some photos of yourself. The last time I got some photos taken, I booked in with a friend, and it was really good because we both booked in the same photographer and we got photos done individually, but then we also got photos with each other in each other's photos. So then it looked like we were working with someone. So that can be a really good strategy too if you want to kind of make the most of the photo session and also get photos with somebody so it looks like you're offering a service, So get some regular brand photos, some regular photos of you doing whatever service you offer, and regular photos of your products. This is just really a really good habit so you have enough content for your website, enough content for your shop, enough for your social media, so that you're never running out, you're never stuck for content. It always feels on brand, it always feels up to date. You always feel really happy with it and always really proud of what you're putting out there, and you always have enough stuff to be getting on with. So highly recommend getting in the habit of having and taking enough photos. You can never have too many photos, I think. Okay, now let's move on to the last segment, which is all about marketing. Get in the habit of refreshing your social media profiles. So make sure that every now and then, I would say like every month or so, you are checking in with your social media profiles and just doing a little bit of an audit to make sure that everything is still up to date and that you don't need to change any out of date links, that your bio doesn't need updating, that you don't need to change your highlights or remove anything from your highlights or change your pinned photos or anything like that. Things get left behind if you ran an event and that was your pinned post and now that event is over and you just forgot to remove it. Like, that's fine, it happens. But just make sure you're checking in and updating that stuff. You might have a link in your bio that doesn't need to be there anymore. That's confusing, and so you want to make sure you remove that. Or your bio could do with a refresh. So just make sure you're checking in every now and again. Get in the habit of keeping an eye out, taking a look every now and then, and updating your social media profiles. This is probably one of the most impactful habits, I think, is to get in the habit of recording B-roll and taking behind the scenes photos. If you are someone who wants to be making more video content or creating more content online on social media, video and or photo wise, it's really useful to just get in the habit of snapping content as often as you can, as often as you think about it, as often as you remember, because you never know when you might need that content and how useful that can be. Sometimes just 5-second video of you doing something is so helpful. That could be an Instagram reel, or 5 of those combined could make a TikTok, or it could become the background of an Instagram story. Or if you just take a photo, that could be a whole post for a day. Just getting in the habit of taking that content when you're doing stuff or when you're out and about even is just so useful. So getting in the habit of doing that is a really, really good thing to start doing. So I would highly recommend doing that. I used to always be really good at this with photos, and then someone was like, start doing this with video. Just start taking 5 to 10 second clips of video, and it will be amazing how much you realize how helpful this is. And I was like, that's genius. So now every time I think to take a photo, I'm like, also take a 10-second video. I started doing that, and now the amount of times I've used those videos as Instagram reels or behind something on an Instagram story or things like that is amazing. So highly recommend getting in the habit of doing that too. The next habit that is super important is to get in the habit of making everything that you possibly can as accessible as possible. So, on social media and on your website, this means adding captions to things, adding alt tags to your photos, and adding image and video descriptions where it's necessary. On Instagram stories, get in the habit of captioning your stories, either adding the automated captions, that is so easy to do. All you have to do is add a sticker and it does it for you. But a step further, which is even better because a lot of people don't even watch those automated captions because they still have to watch the whole thing. So just type out the caption so that it summarizes what the story is about is really useful. If you're posting a image on social media, adding an alt tag to that image so that anybody who can't see it can use a device that will read an alt tag. It will describe the image to them. Make sure you're adding that on social media. Just get into that habit. Every time you're posting, adding an alt tag is really important. It's something that I know I'm not perfect at, but I'm trying to get in the habit of doing it because it's so important. It just should be a non-negotiable. So yeah, something that everybody should get in the habit of doing for sure. The next habit is to engage with your audience. And this is something that we all should be doing if we want to be growing our audiences. But there are 3 ways that you can be engaging on social media. And I think we forget about the different ways that we can do that. So there are 3 ways of engaging. There's obviously creating, so you can create and put stuff out on social media. You can also consume, so obviously we all do a lot of that, scrolling and liking and doing all of that stuff. But there's also just connecting, so commenting, replying to stuff, answering people's polls or questions and all of that stuff too, and just connecting with people on social media without any expectation of anything in return too is really important part of social media. It's like that is the social part of social media. So don't forget about that too. Get in the habit of just going on social media, replying to people's stuff, telling them that you like their work or that you appreciate what they're doing, replying to what they're putting out there. All of that stuff is super important. So make sure you get into the habit of doing that too. Next habit is to get in the habit of tracking your metrics. So if you're not already, make sure that you are doing some sort of tracking. You don't have to track everything. Just make sure you're tracking whatever is important to you. And I did a previous episode last month about some metrics that are important for creatives to track. And it might be, there are some metrics that we think are important, like how many people are following us or how many likes that we get and that sort of thing. But some of those things are less important than we think that they are. And some of them are more important than we think. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't listened to that already. But there are some things that are super important, like how much engagement are you getting? That's more important on social media. How many sales are you making? How much profit are you making? Like these are the metrics that are important, and think about which ones matter to you and your business and your specific circumstances, and then track those. And you can track those on like a weekly basis or a monthly basis or whatever works for you, but get into the habit of doing that. Set a calendar reminder. I have like a time blocked out in my calendar every month so that I do that every month, and I just have it set up in my Notion template so that every month I go in and I put it in my Notion and I can see what my numbers are and how I'm improving or what goals I'm hitting every month and what my metrics are doing each month. So make sure you are getting in the habit of tracking your metrics, because what gets measured gets managed. And you need to be able to know what's going on in your business to be able to manage your business and to be able to run it like the boss that you are. So make sure you are tracking your metrics. Habit number 14 is to get in the habit of talking about what you sell. So it is a hard habit to kind of build, and it's something that a lot of people are kind of not keen on doing sometimes, but it's super important. That is how you make money, and you need to be making money. You are a business owner. You have to make money to pay your rent and to eat and to survive, and you deserve that. And you are working hard and you're work is worth paying money for, and people aren't going to be able to buy it if they don't know about it. So you have to tell them that it exists and that it's available to purchase. So make sure you're telling them about it. Make sure you are telling them that it exists and where they can buy it and how much it costs and what's available and how many different variations there are and why people love it and why it's amazing and all the testimonials, and like, don't shut up about how great it is. You need to get in the habit of telling them all the time. You need to repeat it and you need to make it super clear, and you also shouldn't be ashamed or afraid to do that. So make sure you get in the habit of talking about what you offer and what you have for sale and what you do. I can't wait to see you telling everyone what you have for sale. And the last habit is to get into the habit of doing outreach for opportunities. You have to be in it to win it. You have to put your hat in the ring or your name in the hat to be in the running to get certain opportunities, whether that's like making your own opportunities or applying for certain opportunities. So that could be applying for markets or for speaking opportunities. I just sent a bunch of emails to people who host podcasts and was like, hey, do you need a guest for a podcast? Because I would love to be on it. And you sometimes have to step up and put your name out there and do that. And you have to get into the habit of doing that regularly if that's what you want. You might want to speak at a conference, or you might want to make your own opportunities. You might want to start a community, or you might want to start your own market or your own conference or whatever you want. Or you want to, have a stall at a market, like whatever it is that you want. Don't stop doing the outreach to try and get those opportunities, whether you want to wholesale at certain shops or have an exhibition. There are so many different opportunities that you can get as an artist. I keep coming up with ideas as I'm talking to you. If you want to get PR opportunities, if you want to get sponsorships, if you want to get funding, there are so many things, and you have to get into the habit of doing that. So same thing as like with the tracking. Maybe you need to set yourself a monthly reminder or a monthly task of like, okay, I'm going to reach out to 5 podcast hosts, or I'm going to fill in 1 funding application a month, or I'm going to submit 5 market applications every quarter, or whatever it is. Set yourself those tasks, set yourself those reminders, and get into the habit of outreach so that you can get those opportunities, because you deserve them, but you have to make those opportunities happen, and you have to do the mahi to get the treats. And if you're not from New Zealand, that means do the work. You got to do the work to get the treats. And so there you go. So those have been 15 habits that will help you build and grow your brand easily and more effectively. You do not have to do them all. It's really hard to try and build many habits all at once. And if you have read Atomic Habits, which I think most people have at this point, you will know that you should like build habits on top of each other. So start with 1, build that, and then add another one. But if you start integrating 1 or 2 of these into your life, into your business, you might be surprised at the difference that it makes. So I really hope that you do start implementing a couple of these and you start kind of taking them seriously and building these habits. And I can't wait to see how they impact you and your business and your brand. And as a reminder, I told you about the habits to do with your brand strategy at the beginning. So if you do not have one of those already, don't forget to check out the brand strategy kit for creators that will help you to build your brand strategy. The link for that will be in the show notes, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye everyone. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Brand Your Passion and choosing to spend time with me learning all about branding, business, and all things creativity. You can find more episodes just like this one at makerandmoxie.com/podcast. If you like this one, you can tap that subscribe or follow button so that you're notified about each and every new episode. And if you've got a spare second, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast, because I would absolutely 100% love to hear from you. If there were some helpful goodies in this episode for you, it would mean the world to me as well if you could screenshot that podcast player right now, hop on over to Instagram or Twitter and tag us at Maker and Moxie. By subscribing, reviewing, and sharing, you're helping reach more creators just like you, so that together we can make the world a more creative place, one brand at a time. We can't achieve this mission without you, so your support means the absolute world. I will talk to you in the next episode, but until then, keep creating.